Hello and welcome to Amsterdam and runway 36 left. Over on the spy flight, probably the longest taxi, at least in Europe for sure, and possibly in some places around the world. Hello, I'm Dave. I do the spy flight over on Twitch TV. And today, this is the YouTube video today is a complete flight. It's going to be a little shorter than the others because we're going to concentrate on a special technique that, quite frankly, I think we're going to start needing. It's the one-engine taxi technique. And part of the reason is, well, we got a very big VATSIM event coming up, so there's going to be some big delays for some of us. And saving fuel for flying time and stuff like that's going to be an important thing. So best way to look at this is look over here at runway 36 left. We are at Amsterdam. There's the secondary control tower. There's a little area where they can shuttle airplanes back and forth. There's a roadway that actually, that's a little ditch that you go over. And there is the very, very long taxi to go out. Oh, we're still not over at the gate yet. Are we at the gate? Oh, no, we're still not at the gate. We have to come over here. See how long of a taxi this is? Where's our airplane? So we are in an Airbus, an A320. For our one-engine taxi. Oh, it's all the way over here at the Echo Concourse. There we go. You see how far this taxi is? So, one-engine taxi. If you take a look in some SOP, standard operating procedures, and pilot's handbooks and stuff like that, you'll be able to go and figure all that out. If you look in the description, I've got a very small text file in there. It's not a file, you just copy and paste it into Notepad, and that's going to be the flow that I'm going to be using for the one-engine taxi. This is what it looks like, and again, you can just copy and paste this into Notepad, and this is sort of, I've read 3 flight manuals and SOPs, and this is the one that I've been able to come up with here. So what are we doing today? Well, our flight data for today is Amsterdam to Frankfurt, 2 of the longest taxis in Europe for Amsterdam. 36 left in Amsterdam and 25 right over in Frankfurt. There's our flight route today. It looks like we're going to be at flight level 330. Our flight time's 1 hour and 10 minutes, 264 miles today. So why do we care about this? Well, first of all, the long taxi routes that some of us are going to end up flying on, but on some of the VATSIM events, and with more people flying on VATSIM because of Microsoft Flight Simulator, there are more ATC delays. So saving fuel is kind of important out there. Also, real airlines are not just doing it to save fuel, they're also doing this to have a little bit better impact on the environment. That's become kind of a concern. Well, it's not kind of a concern, it is a concern. That's why they're doing that. Today we are using the Airbus A320 for one-engine taxi. Now, I've seen real-world flight videos on 737s that clearly show a one-engine taxi. I just haven't found a procedure for that, so that's my job next week, is to find the correct procedure for a one-engine taxi on a 737. Add-ons I'm using today, SimBrief and SimToolkit Pro, Navigraph charts and data. We're flying real-world weather and current time on this flight. As I mentioned, I'm using the Fenix A320. Now, to be able to use 36 left current weather, I'm going to have a slight tailwind for 36 left, but it's not too big of a deal. And again, several of the spy flow that I've come up with here is from several standard operating procedure flight manuals, and you can go ahead and, like I said, you can find that in the description, cut and paste that into Notepad, and it should work really well for you. So shall we go ahead and hop into the best seat in the house? This is a complete flight. Our airplane is cold and dark here at Amsterdam Schiphol today. I've already got our charts set up, so let's go and sit on the best seat in the house. And that's pilot's seat right down here. A couple of survival tips that I usually give out, especially if you're going to be flying in VATSIM events and you're new to this, and I call it jiggle the controls. Just go and move your flight stick, move your rudder pedals, make sure that your throttles are set up before you do anything else. You know, sometimes USB controllers have attitude and they disconnect, and so if you go and just check those out right here and right now, that's going to make your life a whole lot better, because you can solve the problem before you discover it after you get your clearance and have been waiting for 20 minutes to take off on across the pond. The electronic flight bag for the Fenix is absolutely amazing. It's probably one of the best iPad or electronic flight bags ever. The combination is 4 zeros, or just put your mouse clicker, your mouse pointer over the top of the fingerprint, and that's how you get into the iPad. Pilot brief. This is usually the first thing that I do. I've already got a flight plan that I generated through SimBrief and SimToolkit Pro, so we're going to just go ahead and load this into the reader, and that's all set up, and there it is, Schiphol to Frankfurt. And we'll come on down here, go to the Fenix app. And, you know, this electronic flight bag, and I imagine this Fenix app here, was actually coded by a real Airbus pilot. It's part of the reason why I think it is so incredible. We're flying real time, so I have 25 minutes until departure. So we've got our work cut out for us. Ground services, let's come on over here. We have got GPU and cones and chocks are out. I'm going to go ahead and toggle a jetway right now, and this should get us a jetway. Are we going to get a jetway? Huh? Maybe not. No jetway? You're not going to come out there? Sometimes you can get them and sometimes you can't get them. We're over here at a default airport. So we'll, oh, okay, there we go. Some default airports work really well. Some of them are really kind of messed up. And sometimes you just don't get a jetway. If you don't get a jetway or something like that, just go ahead and throw out your stairs and then open your doors yourself. If you care about doing that, I don't think you actually have to have the doors open to load the airplane. And as the jetway approaches the airplane, boy, is that big, it should automatically open up your 1L. Yep, one left door is open. So that should be good for us. That's about all we need to do right now. Pilots can walk aboard and you can even see the seats are nice. I have to tell you, the cabin here in the Fenix is probably one of the nicest cabins ever. They even modeled the seat, the rows of the seats correctly. All right, this is an Airbus. You know how to turn this on. Battery 1, battery 2, both going on. We got both those batteries on. It clicks. Let's go ahead and do external power. External power is on. Usually I will go and turn on nav and logo lights. The date that I'm recording this is the 3rd of October. So my strategy for navigation and logo light system 1 and 2, I use 1 on odd days and 2 on even days. Other strategies other people use, if the pilot flying is the captain, it's number 1. If the co-pilot is the pilot flying, it's number 2. That's another way to look at it. Next thing we'll come over here and do, we have to fuel the airplane, so no smoking's going on. And also I'm reading some flight manuals that say you turn the internal lights in the cockpit up to dim, even during the day. I also like to turn up the overhead integrated lighting. Just makes it a little easier to read the labels there. Okay, we're looking good. Let's come on down here, and we're going to go ahead and turn up the PFD, stands for primary flight display, and I turned that up to about 3-4 o'clock during the daylight. And we'll do the same thing for the navigation display. The airplane is starting to beep at us. So the startup sequence. And remember, this airplane, the Airbus, has 2 knobs here. The outer knob, that's all the data. The inner knob is your map. Okay, now we have to turn up the ECAM. So let's go ahead and pop up the ECAM here. And that's going to go up there too. Not seeing anything over on this one. Let's see if this pops in here. Oh, you know why? Somebody forgot to... No, I did turn on external power. Uh-oh, I may have run into a problem. I don't have this one turned on. And I don't have... Okay, sometimes this happens. I'm not exactly sure why. You also see that the data is not showing up here. I believe that this is either I did something wrong in my power up here, or it's a bug in the airplane and you have to stop. So I'm going to hit pause and restart my simulator. Give me, well, it's going to be instantaneous for you. So give me a few seconds and we'll try this again. And through the magic of editing, we've gone through the whole restart process, and let's see if stuff is working now. I think I know what might have gone on, and maybe it's not fair for me to have called what happened here a bug. So I started a Microsoft Flight Simulator before starting this video, and before hitting the record button on the video, I went over to the Spy Galley to make breakfast because I figured it'd be better to have something to eat first. And so it sat at the gate for like half an hour or so. And my guess is, and I didn't check this to see, I'll bet maybe my battery voltages might have dropped just a little bit. I'm not sure because we can see the battery voltages pretty clearly. And usually when this happens when this has happened in the past, I didn't check to see the battery voltages. So I think that maybe that's what it is, and it wasn't fair for me to call it a bug. Anyway, onward with the video. So battery 1, battery 2, and let's go ahead and hit external power. And we'll come down here, nav and logo light system number 1, no smoking, dome, intensity. And now let's go down and have a look here and see, do I have, yeah, I have both McDo's up now. So maybe if you let the airplane sit at the gate a little bit too long, that might be a problem. Did restart the sim, so I'm just going to make sure that I can move my controls. And all of that's looking good. We are at the gate. Parking brakes are off because chocks are in place. Let's go ahead, and now that last time I did the 4 zeros to do the iPad, to start up the iPad, just put your little finger on top of it, and that gets you in there. Let's go and get the flight plan again. We'll have to start the airplane a little bit closer to, a little bit faster, because we lost a little bit of time. It's now 15:22 Zulu. Our departure time is at 15:35. So we got work to do here. Come on over here to the Fenix app. And the Fenix app, airplane continues to beep, import from SimBrief. And we probably have 12 minutes to get going here. Can we start the airplane? Let's toggle a jetway and go outside. Did we get a jetway? Okay, we're getting a jetway, so that's good. Now then, let's come on down here, go to the ATSU system and the air operations system, go to flight init, and we're going to init a data request. So the knitting has become, or the I-knitting, I guess. All right, Lufthansa Flight 441, EHAM to Frankfurt. Okay, so that looks good. Go back to air operations, go back to receive messages. Come on over here to the FMGC. Our navigation data is good for another 2 days, and then it'll be time to get some new navigation data. So that looks good. With that in place, we're going to come over here and we'll do these guys. And we'll do nav 1. Look for a fault light. Look for an on battery light. Wait a second. Nav 2, or IR2, I should say. Fault light on battery. And that looks good. Nav 3, fault light on battery. While that's going on, we can go over here and hit the engine 1 fire test. Hey, there's an engine 1 fire test. How about an APU fire test? And let's go over here. There's engine 2. Okay, I also did these for another reason. You see this little button up here? We don't usually play with the hydraulic panel that much on this airplane. The electric pump on the yellow system. That's going to be one of our big deal types of things here on today's flight. And we'll look at that when it's 1 engine taxi time. Okay, here we go. Let's turn up the PFD. Let's turn up the ND. PFD stands for primary flight display. ND is navigation display. Let's do the ECAMs. And there's ECAM upper and ECAM lower. And then I usually slide down here just a little bit and turn up the integrated lighting on the pedestal. And the airplane has come to life. The other safety tip here, okay, we can see the data up here. We can see the data down here in the radios. So I guess we're all good to go. Let's come on down here and let's go ahead and I'm going to start up my APU right now as we go through this so we can get the passengers walking down the jetway. Init a request, and now we're going to get the flight plan into the McDo, and it usually takes a second. And by now we're also waiting to see if the flap is going to be open. And while we're waiting for the flap to be open, we can say, that works pretty good. We'll do IRS init, align on the reference, and confirm. Come on back here. The flap is open. You can also turn this on, I believe, while the flap is opening. You can actually start the APU. It won't start until your flap is open. So, you know, you're not going to create an APU flap by that. And there is your first bad joke. Our flight today, we are flying for Lufthansa, so that's DLH DLH. And my usual number, which is 441, that goes in there. Cost index for today's flight is 60. Don't usually get a 60 cost index, and our cruise today is flight level 330. All right, so that goes over there. Hey, look at that. The load sheet has arrived. So we can do page 2 right now. And our zero fuel weight is 58.6. 58.6 slash page 2. Zero fuel weight Mac is 30 point. That's a 9. So 30.9. And that can go in there. We have not started fueling the airplane yet, so let's not do fuel, but let's go over to mass and balance, and let's go ahead and load the aircraft. And we're going to do the 9-minute load. So the passengers are going to walk down that jetway like they have a purpose this time. Okay, so we got to wait for that, but we can accept this and come on over here. All right, we're going to wait on this one. One of the things that you can do with this airplane, which is incredibly cool, we can go over to weather, and we can do a weather request, and we can do the METAR. So first of all, we're at EHAM, so EHAM. So we put the EHAM up there, and we're going to request the METAR. METAR, yes, and send. Okay, so we're going to come on back here, and return, and return. Let's go to receive messages. And look at that, weather data has arrived, and there is our current METAR, which is incredibly cool. Okay, let's look down here. How's everything down here looking? I usually go ahead and I move the arm out of the way, so all of this is looking good. Passengers are coming down the jetway, that's good. And if we look over here, this airplane also goes, and it's going to open up the cargo bays for us, so that's good too. I'm not using GSX right now. It takes a little bit of extra time. I haven't had the time to learn it as well as I should yet, but I'm seeing other people live streaming GSX, and it's looking really, really good. The weather says that our altimeter is 1025. How about if we set that in? 1025. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to set 1025. That's good. Then we can look down here and do 1025 on the backup. All right, we've gone and done that. If you're going to be flying on VATSIM these days, one of the things that they're starting to tell you is to climb via the SID, but they are not giving you a altitude. What's your initial cleared altitude? That's because ATC is expecting us to come over here and look at the actual departure chart and see if there is an altitude. Well, it does say our transition altitude here in Amsterdam is 3,000 feet. And we are on the Rendy, the 2 Victor, so that looks good. Let's look down, maximum 250 knots below 10,000 feet. That's pretty normal. Come on, look down here. There's Rendy, permission for VFR flights below 6,500, initial climb clearance. Now, they're all kind of different. They're in different places, and some SIDs don't actually have a initial climb clearance, but ATC is expecting us to read the chart and get that number there. So we got that number, and we can go in here and put in 6,000 feet. So we're good to go there. All right, let's go ahead and do our flight plan. And so all of this is looking good. There's still, wait, I was waiting until we're done refueling. Are we done refueling? 5.69, yep. That's it, we're done refueling. So 5.6. 5.6. And by the way, it would say refueling in the ECAM here if it were still refueling. So that's okay. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the F plan. So EHAM, we are departing off of runway 36 left. The pilots always probably go, oh man, do we have to go to 36 left? So 36 left is our departure runway. We're doing the Rendy 2 Victor departure. Okay, there's Rend 2V. And that's active, and insert. Okay, we're good to go there. Let's go over here, and we'll do the EDDF arrival, and we're doing the long taxi at Frankfurt 2. 25 right, which, by the way, they are using right now. So we can use the ILS 25 right. Simbri, after looking at my charts, it says we should use the 25 right Zulu. ILS 25, well, there's Zulu 25 right. There we go. So we're going to grab the Zulu. We're coming in on the Raleigh 3 Alpha arrival. So let's grab Raleigh 3. Now for your VATSIM event, okay, Raleigh 3 Alpha. For VATSIM, you really ought to look at these charts before you start plugging numbers in. Okay, so no transition there, but I'll bet that there is a VIA. And I'll bet it's DF426. How do we know what that is? Well, I've already got my chart stacked up here. So we're going to come on in and see as we come over here, we're going to be landing on the north side here. So this will be the transition, DF426. And if you even look at the Zulu, it says DF426 there to bring us in. So that's going to be our initial transition. Or our VIA is probably the more appropriate word. Okay, insert that. That looks good. Now let's just go and see if we have any route discontinuities. There should be maybe one, and that's going to be in front of that DF426, I'm guessing. Sometimes you just can't press through these really fast. Boy, look at all these waypoints. There's Raleigh. We finally got into the star. And there's all the DFs. And we'll keep going. Okay, yep, we got a manual here after that. And so that's good. And that takes us into the runway. I think we're good to go. And then there's the discontinuity into DF426. I think we're in good shape. I hope. Okay, so this looks good. And GPS primary is good too. So that's nice. All right, let's go ahead and clear that. Clear that. Have we loaded the passengers? 126 passengers have loaded so far. I bet we got all the fuel aboard. We're good to go here. So we're going to wait for the final load sheet. And all of this is looking pretty good. Final preparations. The only other thing that we're going to worry about now is we're going to worry about our taxi out. And our taxi out here is we're going to be over here on the Echo Concourse, and we're going to go all the way out here on the Victor. So it's going to be a long taxi. Okay, so one of the things that I do is even if I know a little bit about the airport or I know the airport very well, when I'm taxiing, I always use some sort of map following so that, because it's easy to get confused, especially on a big VATSIM event. So we're going to probably come out here at Alpha 14, Bravo, Charlie, Whiskey 5. We'll clear ourselves to cross 36 Center. Whiskey 5 to Victor, and Victor out here. We could probably take off at Victor 3. So that's going to be our taxi route. Okay, so that looks good. As a part of our briefing, we are going to brief the fact that we are doing a one-engine taxi. So that means we're going to have to pre-look at another instrument that we normally don't look at in flight sim, but we should. And this is the brake accumulator pressure. We're going to notice after startup that this goes down a little bit. This is why we're going to be using that yellow electric hydraulic pump. And you want this thing to be in the green zone is what we're going to want. Hey, look at that. Passengers are, boarding is complete. So now we're going to go to departure performance. And we're going to go here and change our runway to runway 36 left. 36 left. It's a dry runway today. Sync the final load sheet. I'm going to leave my packs on because I care about the comfort of my passengers. We're also going to sync the live weather. And there was your first shot of Captain Sarcastic for today's flight. Live weather is good. We're going to do flaps 2, trims down 0.4. So performance, flaps 2, trim down 0.4. Okay, looks good. That goes in there. We're going to come on up here. We're going to do flex to 69 degrees today. So flexing to 69 degrees. And that goes in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is our speeds. 142, 142, and 145. So 142 once. 142 twice. 145 for the third number. And we're also going to look and make sure our transition altitude is set to 3,000. That looks really good. Okay. So we do have the APU up and running. Let's get that bleed turned on. Probably should have done that a little bit sooner. We're also going to do crew supply of oxygen, and I turn the cargo heat up to about mid-range there. All this is looking good. Passengers are in their seats. We're going to do seat belts. We're going to arm the emergency exit lights, and we are going to disconnect from ground power. When I disconnect from ground power, this is when I'm turning on my fuel pumps, because I've been so notoriously bad about turning on my fuel pumps. But there we go. All right, all of this is looking good. We're going to come back over here to the Fenix app, and we're going to go to ground services, and the doors are closed. Jetway is pulled back, so let's go ahead. Parking brakes are going to go on, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect the GPU and remove the chocks and cones, and we're going to connect the tug. So we have cleared all moorings, is what you might say if we were doing Ship Simulator. Here comes our very, very big tug. Now then, for a long time now, I have been starting up an Airbus wrong. You start engine number 1. I don't know why I've been starting engine 2. So we're starting engine number 1 first. So as a part of our engine start, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to check that brake accumulator pressure. And if it is not in the green zone, we have to use the yellow electric hydraulic pump and pump things up. And then we can start engine 1. And look at that. It looks like we are all hooked up and ready to go. So the beacon is going to go on. Airplane's going to be rolling about here. Everything else is good to go up here. Look over at the co-pilot. Are we ready to go? Yeah. And that's not very good saying. No, we're not. Okay, well, we're going to go anyway. All right. So here we go. Parking brakes are going to go off. Parking brakes are off, and we're going to start the push. We are 3 minutes late pushing back from the gate. Not too terribly bad, but everything's looking good here. One of the things that I really like about the other Airbus that's available for Microsoft Flight Simulator, the fly-by-wire, is the pushback app there. You actually can monitor your pushback here in a map, and I think that is incredibly nice. Here we have to look and see where we're at, and if we want to make a turn or something like that, we kind of have to do it, go in and out of the airplane, so to speak. I really like that. That's something that fly-by-wire has done incredibly well. Okay, we're going to start to make a turn to the right, and so we're going to do a little turn to the right here. This gate is clearly meant for bigger jets here. So we'll go ahead and straighten this out, and I'm going to hit stop. And as we look there, we'll wait till we stop, make sure the airplane stops first, and then we'll come down here, parking brake on, come back over here, and disconnect the tug. Okay, we're good to go there. Let's go ahead and start up an engine, shall we? So come on down here. Starter goes to start. Look up here. Do we have hydraulic pressure? We do. Ooh, look at this. The accumulator brake pressure is low. See that? That's a problem. Come on up here. Yellow pump. The yellow pump is on. And then let's look and see what's going on with the yellow brake accumulator pressure. And we are pumping things up. So that's good. All right, so that's great. Let's go ahead and turn it off. Do we turn it off after we start? I believe it's as needed. So now that it's pumped up, we turn it off, and now we can go ahead and start engine number 1. Engine number 1 starts, and let's go ahead and look and see. Yep, there's the start sequence. You can tell that because we've got the little gray box here. So little gray box means your start sequence is going. Look down here. Do we have oil pressure? The PSI of the oil is going up. If it's going up and it eventually stops being red, the good news about that is that means you don't have an oil leak going on. We also should be getting our final load sheet any minute now. And we are getting a good start on engine number 1. There was a generator switchover. and the little gray box is gone. The next thing we'll see as this is coming up is we should see engine available. And EGT is continuing to climb. There it is. That engine is now available, so that's good. So after start, the after start checks on all of this, we're going to go ahead and leave the APU on. So that stays on. Then there's another button that we normally don't do an awful lot with, and that is the cross bleed. So we're going to turn that on. And so that means that bleed from engine 1 will go over to engine 2 for the packs. And then you turn off the APU bleed, because apparently what that would do is suck engine exhaust into the airplane, and that's not good. And then finally, after start, we're going to turn the electric hydraulic pump back on. Let me make sure that I've got that right here. So before departure, cross bleed, normal start, and yes, yellow, it pressurizes the yellow hydraulic system, and then we can do our taxi. There we go. So we are good to go there. And we can come down here. All of this looks good. Oh, I should have squawked mode Charlie on the taxiways. Bad pilot. And I think we're ready to do our taxi. Okay, everything looking good here. We're going to go down here and get the mode back to normal. And everything looks good. Predictive wind shear will do all this. The load sheet is done. If you can do this before your taxi, it sure does make your life easier. So in it, page B, we boarded an extra 2 passengers. So 58.6 is our current zero fuel weight. That didn't change, but the zero fuel weight center of gravity is now 31.8. That did change. So /31.8, and that goes in there. Accept that and return. Let's go back over here to performance, and now it is taxi time. So again, I'm going to call up over here. We're going to do our taxi out, our clearance to taxi Alpha 1 to the Bravo taxiway. We're going to go out via Charlie and Whiskey 5. Okay, here we go. Now then, in this airplane, it doesn't take an awful lot to get it going, but it still takes a little bit more thrust than you think. So here we go. Look over here. Anybody over there? So throttle 1 is going up. We're starting to move. And out we go. Now we might have to have a little bit more continuous thrust on this than we would like. It's going to be a little bit harder to make a left turn this way, but not too much harder. The whole point is we've only got one engine going, so while it might take a little more thrust to get us going, remember the Airbus is pretty good at, thrust idle taxi. The whole point is we're putting out half the exhaust for sure, but we're also putting out using a little bit less fuel. Okay, so here we are coming out here. I'm going to cross over the Alpha taxiway and take the Bravo. So there's the Alpha taxiway. And then there's that high speed, and there's our Bravo turn. If you wanted to confirm all this, you could go ahead and taxi out using an engine 1 taxi like this. So you could go ahead and do that. You could do your engine taxi out with just one engine, and then you could come back and do it again with both engines, take a look at your fuel use, and that's going to kind of help you out. Now it is trying to push me a little bit to the right here. So it's still trying to push me a little bit to the right, so I'm having to do a little bit of a turn. Notice we haven't done control checks. Notice we haven't done flap settings or anything like that. We're just going to concentrate on the taxi. According to the flight manuals and stuff that I've read for a one-engine taxi, We continue along this way until we are 3 minutes or greater from when we're going to be taking off. That's when we go ahead and we go and start up the other engine. Another consideration for doing all of this is when we start up the next engine, we have to turn off that yellow electric fuel pump, hydraulic pump. So basically, that's your brakes. So starting up the other engine on the taxi while you're moving and you're not supposed to use the brakes, I think that if I'm reading it right, that takes a heck of a lot of coordination. So basically, you're going to want to be sitting in a line with other airplanes, stopped, and then you can go ahead and start your next engine. Now, maybe I've misread that, but it just seems to me that that's asking for trouble. Okay, we're ground speed is now 25 knots, so I'm going to pull that throttle back a little bit here because we have a 90-degree turn to make here on the Charlie taxiway, and you want to be a little slower than this. In fact, I think you want to be around 10 to 15 knots, and I'm at about 22. So a little more braking. There's the Charlie taxiway. Add a little more power, and out we go. You see that tower that's ahead? That's the control tower, the separate tower for this long taxi. Okay, there we go. Next turn is going to be a left turn at Whiskey 5. This one's going to be even more interesting because we've only got this engine going. So making a left turn with the left engine on, that might be a little more entertaining. Okay, there's our turn. So I want to get my speed up here. Right now we're at about 16 knots. It's pretty good, but I don't want to be losing too much momentum here. Keep going. Super duper long taxi on this one. Now, one of the other things that I did is on this flight, I boarded an extra 45 minutes of taxi fuel. If we were in a VATSIM event, I would be boarding it. Their VATSIM events, I boarded 3 hours of extra fuel. And that's because the airplane uses a little bit extra fuel out there. These airplanes are using the right amount of fuel, so maybe not 3 hours, but you definitely need to board extra fuel at these airports that have notoriously long taxis. Or maybe not an airport that there's a notoriously long taxi. Maybe it's one of those airports where there's a lot of traffic and you know you're going to be in a line of 10 airplanes before you get to take off. So planning ahead for that's a good thing to do. Okay, we've crossed the center runway and we're now turning onto the Victor taxiway. A joke in Flight Simulator is this is the part of Flight Simulator where it's better to use Truck Sim, because there's such a long taxi. So I just think we went over that canal. We also see, as you look, you can see some pretty impressive highways that you take. So there we go. There is a one-engine taxi out there. Looks like the altimeter may have changed just a little bit here. We may have a different altimeter setting. Let's see here. Do I have METAR TAF already set up just to do a fast one for us? Nope, I don't. EHAM. EHAM. Okay, the altimeter is 1026. Yes, typing on the internet. Now this is going to be a little bit dodgy here. So obviously this canal is a bit of a problem. Look how we're going to go down a hill. A one-engine taxi. Let's get the thrust up here because we got to climb up a hill now. Get some momentum going. Whoa. Now maybe if you have a payware, that's going to take care of it, but not so much here. Okay, so 1026 is our altimeter setting, so there's an updated altimeter setting here. 1026, 1026 and 1026. Okay, so we're here at EHAM. We did the long taxi. We're number 3 for takeoff, and this is where we're going to start waiting. So it's we're coming up on that 3 minutes for takeoff. So 3 minutes before, according to the flow, that yellow hydraulic pump needs to go off. So we're going to assume that we're behind 2 more airplanes. Now maybe there's a way to do this and I'm making too big of a deal out of it. Okay, parking brakes are on. Yellow hydraulic electric pump goes off. APU bleed goes back on. Engine number 2 start normally. So starter. And we have pneumatic pressure. Engine number 2 starts. Well, we don't have fire coming out of the back of the airplane here, so that's a good thing. There goes our engine. The sounds inside the cabin are really cool on this airplane. I'm going to assume that there is some way to do this start procedure while rolling. I guess you just have to not touch the brakes. All right, I'll call that pretty good. So how are we doing here? Yep, EGT is going up. The start sequence is over. N1 is good too. We're waiting for that ready to go. Engine available is what we're looking. There it is. It's available. So let's go ahead and get the starter back to normal. Starter is back to normal. Okay, APU as needed. We don't need the APU, so we're going to go and do APU bleed off. Cross bleed. Say that 3 times fast. It goes to auto, and we're done with the APU. Come on down here. Let's do our control checks. There's our control checks. All of those are looking good. And rudder trim is going to be down 0.4, 2, 3, 4. Flaps are 2 for takeoff. I'm going to zero out my rudder trim. I'm going to turn on my ground spoilers are armed. We're going to turn on predictive wind shear. Let's go down here. Parking brake is going to go off, and we'll continue our taxi and get ready for takeoff. There has got to be a way to do this start while you're rolling. I think you just have to plan ahead to not use the brakes, or maybe you get 1 tap of the brakes or something. I don't know. So I gotta understand that one. And we are now clear for takeoff. So is this the one I think that we're going to? Yeah, I think this is the one we're going to over here. I moved my map out. Yep, this is going to be Victor to Victor 3. So Victor to Victor 3. So straight over there, there's our runway. We're going to go ahead, clearance for takeoff, strobes on, get the landing lights ready to go. Cabin call. And I think we're ready to go. So you can clearly see that I've got a little bit of a tailwind on this one. Real World Amsterdam is landing, not on 3-6 left, but 1-8 right. So they're actually doing landing on this one. So that's okay. Takeoff config check. I think we're all ready to go. Let's do a rolling takeoff here. The airport, the runway seems to be a little bit lumpy out here. It goes up and down over there. Landing lights. And lined up about as good as we're going to get. Throttle's going up to that little halfway mark. Auto brakes. I did not do my auto brakes. Auto brakes. There we go. Okay, ECAM checklist is clear. Engines are stable. Manual flex. SRS is set. Auto thrust is blue. It's flying time. runway did not activate. I'm going to assume that sometimes it does sometimes. I don't know. I did something wrong, I'm sure. 100 knots. So there's the high speed for an Airbus. There's V1. Here's rotate. Up, up, and away. Positive rate, gear. Nice views outside the cockpit. And let's set her up. Lever climb. Thrust climb. Get over here where we belong. Lower the nose a little bit. So I'm centering up those flight directors. There we go. That's looking pretty good. AP. Get a little help from that. And out we go. Up, we're past the F, so flaps can go to flaps 1. I don't know if that went all the way up right. I think I need to recalibrate my flap lever. It's not 100% right. Coming up on the S. See, we should have turned on constraints. I should have turned on terrain radar. Not that I think there's that much terrain around Amsterdam, but still. Here comes the little letter S. Oh, we need to do altimeters reset. Altimeter 1, altimeter 2, altimeter 3. Come on back to cabin. Slats going up. Always fun to go to the cabin view and check out the flaps and slats. For most of us that aren't real world pilots and stuff like that, that's the view we're used to. And out we go. Speed's coming up. Nice departure. We're probably going to get a 3-minute late thing, so a notice from Lufthansa Ops, why are you 3 minutes late? And if you want to figure that out, you have to come over here and use the delay allocation card and come up with your excuse. So we may have to provide an excuse. Okay, we're getting a call from ATC, so you can see here is our top of climb. And they basically have said climb and maintain 17,000. So that would be our top of climb for departure control. And we continue to go on out on our turn. On the charts here, we could look over here and see the Rendy departure. And there we go. Rendy 2 Victor. And out we go like that. Now this says below flight level 650. So this tells me we're going to stop at 6,500 here. And there is probably a constraint in here that is going to do that. Let's go ahead and make the map a little bigger until we see Rendy. I don't see that. Ivla, Lunex. So I have to make it even bigger to see if there's that on the map. Okay, there's Rendy. It isn't in there. I'll bet it's in the flight plan, though. So, Ivlut, do we have a 6,500 foot at Rendy? No, we don't. So maybe that is not an actual constraint. That's like one of those guideline kinds of things. Yeah, it is, because we're already above 8,000 feet. So we just blasted through a constraint without realizing it. You can get in trouble really quickly there. Good thing I'm not on VATSIM right now. So our final cruise is going to be flight level 330. Flight level 330. We'll just let the airplane continue the climb. It's light traffic today, and out we go. And there's 10,000 feet. Let's do landing lights. And nose light. 10,000 foot cabin call. And really nice clouds over Amsterdam today as our speed goes up and we are off to Frankfurt. Frankfurt, I usually will leave this over here on the performance page on the pilot side. On the co-pilot side, I put flight plan up. and that tells us that we are 272 miles away from Frankfurt. It is currently 14:01 Zulu. We are expected to be landing at 14:41. This is an incredibly short flight. Over here on the spy flow, which again I've clipped into the description, so you're going to be able to go and get this. So arrival. Now, one of the things that all of the POHs and stuff said is you don't start the single engine taxi until at least 3 minutes after you use the reverse thrust. You also are supposed to, as a part of that, it's straight ahead taxi, you know, and it's just to cool down the engine a little bit. So if you're making turns and all this other stuff, apparently that doesn't cool the engine down enough for you to be able to start doing the single engine taxi. So 3 minutes after cool down, and you're going straight into the wind. And what we'll do is we be sure and start the APU. Now, some airlines that I read, they have an APU single engine taxi procedure without the APU, because they don't want the APU on to, you know, not be running the gas in the APU and also not putting out the exhaust. I'm going right now with the APU on taxi on this one. But I think in Europe they're starting to use the APU a lot less. Again, to put less pollution in the air, use less fuel. But we will be turning the yellow hydraulic pump on. Engine number 2 goes off. And then at parking, it's yellow electric hydraulic pump off, and then engine 1 off. So that's the simple procedure for the taxi going in. And we're passing 15,000 feet. Short flight today. It's nice and calm. I'm going to go seat belts off now in case there's somebody back there that had the Venti instead of the Grande and they need to, you know, go. So we're done here. Here is our flight going out. There is our short flight down to Frankfurt. We are not going back to Amsterdam, so I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning up stuff and get ready for the approach. The Raleigh arrival here is basically what I call the giant waiting queue in the sky. My friends in the UK understand the term waiting queue. Some people outside might not know that that's sort of a little line. So if you've been to Disneyland in the United States, you know how you go back and forth to wait and stuff. So this is sort of a waiting queue, and you see all these little points in here 4 miles apart. So this is basically a way for air traffic control to move us forward or hold us back in the sequence of airplanes coming in. So if we're coming on in here, we're past DF 410, 412, but there's starting to be a gap of airplanes, they might then, you know, get us up to DF 414 and then say direct to DF 425 and turn us in a little bit sooner. If they want to hold us back, they're going to make us go all the way out to DF 416 and then maybe even continue on this heading to extend us out. So that's how they move airplanes forward and backward in a waiting queue in the sky. So we're not going to do this whole thing here as we get here to D14, 13, and 14. We'll go ahead and do a direct to DF 424. You can see as far as altitudes, it's 5,000 feet is our final plunge altitude. So we're going to go ahead and be prepared for that. Minimums for a Category 1 landing is 553 feet for a Category C airplane. We're also going to take note of the call letters, the 4-letter identifier for the ILS, and also the frequency, and we're going to check to make sure that the airplane's ready to go. And if we want to, you know, we'll also monitor for Fred, the VOR. Also, important safety tip, especially as we get ready for cross the pond and stuff like that, they are cramming a lot of airplanes into some airports. You need to be ready to do a go-around, a missed approach. So one of the things I'm trying to start doing a better job of is reading the missed approach. Straight ahead, 800 feet or above, right, and we're going to the Tau VOR, the Taunus VOR. So missed approach, right turn, we're going to go out on the 139 degree radial to Tau, to Taunus. Okay, and that's where we hold, and that's what we do. Turn right, intercepting, inbound. Oh, no, after that. So turn right, after we get to Taunus, we then make a right turn to 083 and go to the Metro VOR, climbing to 5,000 feet, and you can see that there is a hold here at Metro. So, those are things, again, because we are starting to get into much more crowded situations. I'm hearing people on VATSIM having to, go around. And so it's always important to be like the real pilots and be ready to go around. Airport, once we land. So briefing here, we're coming in on 25 right, which, by the way, Frankfurt is doing real world right now. They are landing pilots here on 25 right. We have two high speeds here, Papa 14, Papa 16 over to Papa 1. So we're going to try and catch those so that we come and do this. 3 minutes after landing, we can go and start doing our single engine taxi procedures. And then here at Papa 1, we'll come down here probably November 17 and do November. And I think Lufthansa takes airplanes like our flight and they park them over here in these stands here. So we're going to go for something like, Alpha 20 or something like that. A long taxi going in. So that's the plan. So we briefed that there. Next thing for us to do is to come on down, look at the old flight plan. Let's hit the fuel prediction button. And right now it is predicting that our fuel when we land in Frankfurt is going to be 3.3 tons. So what we also do is come over here and have a quick look and see what is our final reserve and alternate fuel. Final reserve and alternate was going to be 2.5. I boarded an extra 45 minutes of fuel for taxi and stuff. And you can see that we're going to be, usually I have about a ton. We cut into that just a little bit here, but we're still above final reserve, so there's no reason to panic yet. I'm going to hit the flight plan button again, 217 miles out. Looks like we're landing at about 1440 Zulu. It is currently 1408 Zulu. We're approaching 24,000 feet. Top of climb starting to show up here. And now is the time where we actually just get to sit back and look out the window and enjoy the ride. And I've never been to Germany, but you know what? One of the things that I'm starting to notice about Microsoft Flight Simulator, especially as I go and I watch a video that somebody has taken out of the window of a real-world flight, this is what it looks like. And one of the things that I did, that I remember thinking to myself, when I was watching one of those YouTube videos of a real-world flight, I was looking out at a view very much like this, in a real world. I says, wow, that looks like Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it went bing, and says, wow, scenery in Microsoft Flight Simulator is getting really good. So if you're having a bad day, you got a little time, you're waking up in the morning, you got a crappy day ahead or something like that, but you have time to go and fire up the sim before breakfast and set it up like this so that you can just go and look out the window like that. I gotta tell you, it is a little bit therapeutic, and it just makes my day a little bit better. So there you go. Let's go outside. It's a little bit noisy out there. I am gonna go ahead and go and get a second cup of coffee. I'm gonna hit pause on the video. You should hit pause on the video too if you're flying along with me. And when we are 50 miles from top of descent, restart the video, okay? Welcome back. I know, it was only a few seconds there. But we made it, and we, as you can see, about 50 miles from top of descent, so it's time for us to get busy. Plane's flying along really good. Got a second cup of coffee. Hope you had a good second cup of coffee too. And let's go ahead and start doing our final preparations for descent. And let's use the airplane. So we're going to come over here and we're going to use the system available in the airplane. So ATSU and Air Operations menu, weather. We are going to Frankfurt, so we're going to do a weather request for Frankfurt. So that is going to be EDDF. And we're going to request the METAR and send it. And if it flashes and goes to message, we can come back here and do received message. Remember, you will also get a company message showing up here too, eventually. And I think you'll get that for weather as well. Okay, let's go ahead and put in our destination data right off the Copilot's McDo, which is so cool. Okay, come on over here. Our, let's see, what do we got? 1027. 1027. That is going to be our QNH. The temperature in Frankfurt is 16 degrees. And the winds in Frankfurt are, what do we got? 260 at 6, it looks like. 260 at 06 knots. All right. Over here on the charts, we can go and look and see. We already looked at this, but I've already forgotten. So we know that a Category 1 landing for a Category C airplane, the minimums are 553 feet. So 553 is the barrow. Transitions 5,000 feet. It's already in there. Smart airplane. Back to performance. We have 27 miles to top of descent. Again, as we've already kind of briefed this stuff coming in on the Raleigh arrival, no real altitudes here on the Raleigh arrival here. So one of the things that I'm going to do is final plunge altitudes, 5,000 feet. That's just a good way to do it if you're working by yourself. ATC is going to give us probably step downs. Usually is the way they seem to be doing it in Europe right now. And so that's going to help with traffic flow on that. You can also see our big waiting queue in the sky. So that's going to be able to move us forward and backwards within the approach here. And so all that's looking good. And we are 21 miles from top of descent. Everything else is looking pretty good at the moment. Passengers are back in their seats. They're comfy. They're having coffee, pretzels. I don't think they do peanuts anymore in airplanes anymore because people, because of allergies to peanuts now. So I think it's like pretzels or some sort of cracker or something like that. One of the things that I have to tell you I really do like... Oh, there you are. Sorry, forgot to put that out. One of the things that I really do like about the Boeing 737 is the way that you could preset your altimeter down here. Now, I think the way you do that here is you just take it out of standard, change it, and put it back in. Don't know what kind of an impact that has on your descent or anything like that, but that's the way you do it there. The Boeing, you can preset it, and it's so nice to get to preset stuff. See, I forgot to go to airports. Always like to have airports up when you're cruising along. In case you lose an engine, it's easier to land and figure out an airport to land at. So there we are. There is 10 miles. 10 miles to top of descent. Our one engine taxi procedure is all set up here for the arrival. So 3 minutes after landing, we're going to go ahead and be ready to do the 3-engine taxi. We can come over here and use the chronometer. And we're going to go ahead and we can just hit the chronometer button, and that's going to give us our 3-minute timer. So we know that the engines have had sufficient time to cool off. I'm guessing that there's probably going to be some sort of a reading here, maybe EGT or oil temperature or something. One of those might tell us, give us an actual number, but I never found an actual temperature number or anything like that. We are 3 miles from top of descent. So I usually like to hit my descend button if it's up to me. I like to do it at about a mile before. Maybe you're supposed to wait until it actually says 0, or maybe more, maybe less, but if it's up to me, I like to press the button a mile beforehand So there's 5,000 feet. You can see that we are on our descent path. There is the donut, or the green descent dot. And it was a little bit, and it's trying to speed up a little. It's going really fast. I think I need some speed brakes. We're about ready to go into VNE speed. Velocity never exceed. So we're about ready to go a little bit too fast there. Okay, we've caught up there. It doesn't seem to be doing such... Whoop, there's a mic there. It doesn't seem to be doing such a big dive. Man, we are diving, though. Look at that. Speed's coming back up. I guess we're going to need a little speed brake up here on this descent. Okay, are we holding it up with just one click of the speed brake? Okay. Man, the airplane really does want to descend on this one, doesn't it? Everything else is in pretty good shape. Now we're going to start our turn into the waiting queue. So there we are at DF403, and that's going to be pretty much near the Wiesbaden Air Force Base. I'm guessing Wiesbaden Air Force Base is that right over there. And we come around here, make our turn. And so all of that is looking good. How are we doing in terms of speed? Well, it's slowed us down just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and put the speed brakes down. Well, it looks like it's going to try and speed us up again. It really is serious about wanting to descend today, isn't it? Seatbelts going on. Well, that's good. If we can get down to, 5,000 feet around here, we get to turn into the airport a little bit sooner. Still trying to speed up there a little bit. Wonder if I did something wrong on this. See, if we look out the window here, it's hard to see, but Frankfurt is right down there under the wing. Absolutely huge airport in Germany. And as usual in Microsoft Flight Simulator, when there's something to see and there's real world weather, the clouds are going to cover it up. It just seems to be my luck. Of course, we could change the weather, but... Okay, passing 21,000 feet. We've done seat belts. Everything else is good to go. Nothing else to worry about there. So you might have noticed that the aft cabin temperature, it's down a click. There's more people in the back. Some airlines will click it down just one click. Not to freeze them out, but there's just more people back there. So to keep the rear cabin comfortable, they click that one notch. Okay, passing 20,000 feet. Let's go ahead and go to 20 miles on that. We want to be at 6,000 feet right here at NEBAP, I think. I think that's NEBAP. We're passing 20,000, descending at about 2,500 feet per minute. Not bad. So we'll have to go through a little bit of the waiting queue. Another thing we should do, if we're going to be good pilots, is we're going to come over here to the radio navigation button. And we're going to come over here and look at our chart for the ILS Zulu. This is the runway we know we're going to use. So the airplane is looking for IFNW, and the airplane is over here. It's over IFNW, so there's our airplane on tracking. The frequency is 111.35. It is. Inbound course is 247. You could even check the slope. And so we've gone and verified that the airplane is currently set up on the correct approach. I'll go back to performance for now. And down we go. There's 18,000 feet. Transition here is 5,000. So we're already set to do the altimeter, and we already know that the altimeter is going to be set to 1027. Some pilots, sim pilots, I don't know if real pilots would do this or not, they would go to the backup altimeter when they get the altimeter setting, and they would put that in here as their reminder. I don't know if that's the way to do it or not. But I have seen some people do that on live stream, and so that's one thing that might be going on. You probably noticed I didn't turn up the monitors, the CRT monitors. I guess it's LCD monitors for the co-pilot. You know, I guess I could do that. I also, on a recent flight in this airplane, somebody was pinging me over on the CPDLC system. I believe that that's going to be something that we're going to be able to use in upcoming Cross the Ponds or upcoming VATSIM events. And you'll be able to do clearances and some other interesting things with those. And then once we get a Airbus that is as well made as the Fenix or the fly-by-wire, that is longer haul, you know, say an A320, then we'll be able to use CPDLC with that too. And if you don't know what that is, this is sort of like text messaging for pilots in air traffic control. Passing 14,000 feet. So the airplane is kind of spacing us out. We're right on our descent path here. So it looks like it's going to make us kind of do the little run here. And the scenery outside the airplane just keeps getting better and better and better. It just is so lifelike. And again, a view outside the window. If you haven't been in an airplane for a while, there is something really nice about just sitting in an airplane seat, looking out the window and enjoying the view. Okay, passing 12,000, that says DF416. Boy, somebody's texting me early this morning. So after that, we could do a direct to DF425 and see what happens. So direct to, there's 425, so we'll wait just a little bit here. Is this anything important? Oh, it's somebody trying to do us one of those scam things. Somebody I've never heard before. It's an unknown sender. Yeah, I've noticed those things are coming back a lot too. Okay, there's 11,000 feet. So we'll kind of go out here just a little bit longer. We could also arm the LS system. So we're going to want to see that. Okay, now we're in manual conditions here, so we're just going to continue along here. Let's do that direct to 425 and insert, and that's going to make our turn for us automatically and just loop-de-loop us right on in. And here's 10,000 feet, landing lights, nose lights pre-armed, cabin call, sterile cockpit, and a nice turn around here. Really excited to see this winter, what winter textures are going to be looking like. We've already gone through a winter with Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it looks really good. But I think there's been some enhancements, so that's going to be pretty awesome. At this point in time, ATC might start to give us some speeds. It's already dropping our speed down to 250, but on this, they may be telling us to slow it down even more. Uh-oh, we have a company message. I'll bet this is you were late getting out of, yep, DLH Ops. You were 3 minutes late. All right. So, got to go over here. Delay allocation card. They forgot to load coffee. Do we have that one? No. We got jetway broken. No, not that. Incorrect departure time. Delay, self-managing, new route, incorrect departure, system reset, loading error, late arrival, ATC startup delay. How about an AMZ? We had a long taxi. So it's going to be an AMZ for 3 minutes. Okay? So come over here. Delay code is AMZ. For 3 minutes. And if we have anything else to say about it, we could put it in there. Let's send it. That's good. Back to the main menu. And I'm going to go back to received messages and our arrival weather data. How we doing on this? Okay, so we had a little bit of a wide turn here. That's okay. And let's see, we've also got the, okay, this is the little line here that shows when we're going to actually intercept the descent path. I unprofessionally call that the squiggly, but that's when we intercept our descent path, if you're high or low. So as long as we've got the squiggly and it's not getting further away from the airplane, that's a good thing. Over in the Boeing 737, you've got a little graph up here on the side of the map, and that is your descent deviation. And if that number's getting smaller, it means you are being less deviant. And that's, I guess, probably a good thing for those of us who are on the internet. We're still keeping the speed up to about 250 as we come on in. We do have the LS activated, but we don't have, we're not picking up the ILS. You can, though, if you didn't go and check that radio navigation button that we did, as we get closer, you should see the correct call letters for the ILS and the correct frequency start to show up in there. So that says the airplane's automatically looking for us. ATC just called, and they would like us to slow it down a little bit. So we're going to slow our speed down, and they've told us 210. So 210. There we go. Come on down here. And there is the green dot speed, so we can go and do flaps and slats out, flaps 1. And now we'll start turning into the runway. There goes slats out. And a little bit of flap. Okay, here's where we're supposed to intercept that glide path. So we're looking pretty good, I think, on the descent. Since we have control of our own speed, we can come here to performance, and we're still in descent mode here. So at some point in time, this will automatically switch over unless you wanted to go ahead and activate the approach now. And in we come. Over here, we haven't, so we're kind of far out on this one right now. So if we go back to here, you can see, yeah, we're slowly coming on in. Getting a little bit better here. As we get a little bit closer and established on the descent, I usually come over here and get this thing set up so that I'm able to see my runway and my taxiways and have these ready to go before landing. Another thing is if I'm on VATSIM, one of the games that I play is guess the frequency. And that is when I have a few minutes and I'm listening to ATC yap away at other airplanes ahead of me. And if I hear an airplane that I know is ahead of me and it's coming to Frankfurt or wherever you're going, and they hand them off to approach control or tower or something, I will go ahead and put that in here in my standby here so that I know, so that all I have to do is hit the button. Tuning radios is perhaps one of the busiest time-consuming things in an airplane, especially on approach. So that's why I try and stay ahead of those types of things. So descent is still pretty good. We are at 210 knots. We're doing actually okay, I think. We can come out here and go back to the 40-mile range, and we can see that the airport is about 25 miles away. And in fact, we are now picking up we're now showing 24.4 miles away from the runway. We don't have the two little diamonds here, the pink diamonds here to indicate the ILS, but it is giving us a mileage from the runway. So that's nice. I'll go back to 20 miles here. I should have also gone over here and we could have turned on the VORs. And the VOR is also showing that we are 19 miles away from the FFM VOR. I think that's the Freddy VOR. Good old Fred. Oh, look at this. We have localizer now. So we're good to go on localizer. And you can see the little green dot here and also the squiggly getting closer to the airplane. So we're about ready to re-intercept that descent path. So life is good there. Terrain radar is up. We're starting to see a little bit maybe of terrain radar, not much. 20 miles away. Everything's good to go over here. All of our lights are preset and ready to go. Seat belts are on, nothing to worry about in the upper panel. Over on Twitch, you probably noticed that there's things that viewers can go and click, you know, for called posture check and stretch. We do long flights here, so posture check, especially before landing. Make sure you're seated correctly. You can grab all your controls, put your feet on the rudder pedals. That's an important safety tip too. Still do not have glide slope here. And we're coming up on NIBAP or NIBOM. And I believe at NIBAP, that's where we're supposed to be at 5,000 feet. So we're actually a little bit high here. Oh, nope, we're going down to 5,000. So at NIBAP, it's 5,000 feet. See, we should have gone from airports to constraints. That would have clued me in on that too. 16 miles out. And we're doing pretty good at 5,000 there. Oh, look at that. We got another diamond there. So we've got glide slope and localizer. I'm going to get some help from the approach system. That's going to help me because I'm a single pilot in a dual pilot situation. And this is going to help me with all the stuff that I have to do. By now, they're probably telling us 180 knots until 5 miles DME. So 180 knots. So we need to start slowing the airplane down. That's kind of a standard thing too. Altimeter, standard. So we need to go down here and hit the altimeter. Altimeter again, 1027. So 1027, it's saying there's an altitude discrepancy. So it yells at you about 15 to 20 seconds afterwards. Okay, that's good to go too. We are now about 10 mile finals. We'll go ahead and hold on to this until we're 5 mile finals. We're not slowing down that much. So ATC wanted us to go to 180. I'm seeing a little bit of a slowdown here, but not much. We may need to go and do just a touch of speed brakes to get to that 180. Let's also go ahead and get our auto brake set to medium. Now we're coming down to 180. Not bad, that looks good. Speed's still coming down. We've got a crosswind. Another thing I'm taking a look at here is the wind indicator here in the airplane. See what's really happening to the airplane. We can see we got a wind from the right. It's going to blow us to the left. We're all pretty good and set up here. There's the airport. There's the runway. So the last thing I'll do is I don't need this anymore. I'm going to, again, preset this over on the runway and the taxiways because ATC is going to want me to get off the taxiway quick because there's an airplane behind me. We are 10 mile finals. One last click of the map. And there's the runway. There's 7.5 mile finals. We could go ahead and do landing gear. Ooh, a beautiful view of downtown Frankfurt. Gear going down. Hello, Frankfurt. And we can go ahead and do another notch of flaps and slats. And a great view of Frankfurt coming in with flaps and slats going down. And our speed's good, so we're going to put speed brakes away, and we are going to arm the speed brakes. Looking good here. Coming up on 7 mile finals. Again, we're supposed to maintain that speed until 5 mile finals, then we can slow down. The McDo has already switched us to approach mode, but it's important to check to make sure it does that because we're going to be hitting the managed speed button for our landing. So posture checks, gently putting feet on the rudder pedals, getting ready to do, pilot stuff. There is the FFM, the Freddy VOR. You can see we're it's starting to point over to the side. And there is 5 miles, so managed speed, which should be our landing speed. Look down here. Can we start rolling out some flaps? We sure can. So more flaps on landing. Wow. The colors are starting to really kind of pop out. in terms of Microsoft Flight Simulator. It's just looking so good on approach. And everything's looking good there. I'm still letting the autopilot do the work here. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my standby frequency to ground if there is ground. And at this point in time, we're all nicely established.
1,000.
Flaps are full, about 1,000 feet. I'm going to get ready to go ahead and take control from the autopilot. Unless, of course, we're doing a Cat 3 landing. We're also going to be ready to hit the chronometer button for our 3-minute timer on the one-engine taxi. Okay, flaps are full. Quick check here, the ECAM checklist for landing. It is all green. And I'm pretty much set. AP is now off. Captain's got the airplane. And now we land. Unless, of course, we have to go around. If there's an airplane on a tight final, you know, if they haven't landed and stuff like that and exiting the runway, absolutely be ready for go-arounds, especially in Europe during busy flight sim hours. Okay, we got blown off to the side just a little bit. Little high.
200. Minimum.
Continue.
100.
Glide slope.
We're on
40,
the glide slope, you
30,
insane airplane.
20. Retard. 10. 5.
Reverse. Reversers are green. Probably a little much on those. Auto brakes off. And we are going to make the Papa 16 just fine. So there's Papa 16. And a nice exit. Speed brakes can go down. A little bit of manual braking here. Okay, I'm going to reach over here. And co-pilot just hit the chronometer button. And that's going to give us a 3-minute timer for one-engine taxi. All right, let's make that turn to Papa 1. We get to go over the main highway that goes by the airport. Look over there. Is there another airplane? No, no other airplanes. Coming around here. Let's see, should have done landing lights. We should have done the strobe lights. Our countdown timer is working good for us. We are doing we're 30 seconds in, so that's good news. We're going over the taxiway on Papa 1. Okay, so the flight flow, what are we doing here? After 3 minutes, APU start, yellow electric hydraulic pump on, engine 2 off. So that's what we got going on. Nice little taxi here. How's our fuel? I think our fuel's probably pretty good. We are at 3.2. We were supposed to have, what, 2.5 or 7 or something like that? Okay, so here we are coming on in, about ready to go over the bridge. So there's the highway bridge here. Not very well modeled, but that's okay. Little bit fast. Our taxi speed's about 22 knots over the bridge. We've got to turn to the right. So we'll go back to engine idle, let the airplane slow down because we have some tight turns coming up here. And around we go. Here's speed down to 20. That's not so bad. Looking good. Another big crane over there as they're doing some building here. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a jog here. And we're going to go, not on this one, but let's do the other one, which is the Whiskey Taxiway. And that's going to get us over to be able to do the turn over to the November Taxiway. And it even said, I think, Whiskey. Okay, so here's this turn around here. Don't be fooled by that turn. Now we're actually going over, I believe, the front end of the runway, so we could actually, instead of doing that, maybe what we should do is this turn here and not go over this runway. What's the time? 2 minutes and 44 seconds. So maybe what we'll do is go over here and be ready to open the flap. So we're going to open the APU flap. That's our first step. Okay, nope, this is taking us right over the end of the runway here, of runway 18. So we're going to go across this one, and that puts us on November. There's 3 minutes. The flap has got to be open. We're starting up the APU. Get across the runway, and then it's going to be November into the gates. That's 3 minutes, so maybe if we timed the APU a little bit better, we'd be able to shut down the engine faster. But we're going to wait till the APU pops up. Now, it didn't say anything about the cross bleed for the pack for keeping the air conditioning and the heating on, so may need to do something with that too. And the APU is still in the start setup sequence. We can look down here and monitor it. So the APU generator is now on and available, and it says the APU is available. Okay, yellow electric hydraulic pump goes on, and that goes on, and we go ahead and shut down engine 2. I'm also going to go ahead and idle that engine lever. Might need a little bit more. So let's see. Important safety tip. Do we have accumulator brake pressure set? Yes, and we're in the green zone. So that means we can stop. Stopping, I guess, is like important. So we're just coming in on the November taxiway. A couple of my favorite YouTube videos are the MD-11 videos with Inga and Claudia from Lufthansa Cargo. Always wave over there when passing. See, we should have also turned off terrain radar and predictive wind shear. And coming around the bend, that should be Lufthansa Cargo over there. Sadly, they have gone and retired all of their MD-11s, and they are now flying, I think, just the, I think now they're just flying the 777s, among other things. I think a couple of the Lufthansa Cargo MD-11s did get transferred to UPS. And there's the big cargo zone. Wow, somebody's banging something bad outside of Spy HQ today. And now we're essentially doing a pretty good one-engine taxi. We've got one gold indicator. Predictive wind shear is off, but everything is good. I think we also got a company message that basically is telling us that the company message is probably saying that our pathetic excuse for being 3 minutes late was received by DLH Ops. Yep. Excuse received. It doesn't say whether or not it was accepted or not, but it does say that the excuse was received. Okay, we could also flip off constraints and the LS. I guess we could also pull off the, turn off the flight directors. Coming on here, it looks like we're only about 12 knots. We'll probably pick this up just a little bit. And I'm still having to do little turn adjustments. I think you can do those with rudder pedals. It's not a big turn adjustment. And how we doing over here? We're doing pretty good. We're looking for November 17 to come on in here to our gate area. And how we doing? So 14 knots, that's not awful. Brake temperature is up there, but we haven't been yelled at for hot brakes yet. Give it time, it's an Airbus. So I'm able to do one engine taxi and steering with just rudder pedals on this. Oh, somebody didn't put his flaps up. I wonder if we can still get the flaps up here with one engine off. Oh, sure we can. So the hydraulics are still working there for that. Hydraulics and electrical. At least I wasn't taxiing with my speed brakes out. That's really embarrassing. Okay, we are getting ready to come up on November 7. November 7 takes us into the gate area. There is our gate area up ahead too. So we're doing pretty good. The only extra thing that we're going to be turning off on the airplane is the yellow hydraulic pump when we get to the gate. And we do that before we shut down the engine. And there it is. Does it say November 7? It sure does. So we'll start our turn in here. And we're going on the other side, so we actually want to wait and go around these signs. A little bit fast. I'm going to pull my throttle down just a touch. And make the turn over in here. And we're doing pretty good. I think we're making our way in. The one-engine taxi is working great. We're saving fuel. So this is a good thing to jot down, especially if you're going to do an Airbus on a VATSIM event, particularly the events that are really, really crowded. Now this area here, I think these are for more CRJs, because the parking area on these first gates in this area is not very long. So I think that this is CRJs down here. I mean, that's a short area, and you see the road there isn't very far away. So I think we're waiting to come out here. Maybe that's just an error in the scenery, I don't know. But I'm gonna come out here before I go and not park in there, because that would, the tail would block that roadway. I don't know for sure, never been there, but that's kind of what it looks like to me. And here is a gate right here that we can go into. And that looks good there. We got plenty of momentum. Now, one of the things that this Frankfurt does not have is it doesn't have the yellow line to help you get into the gate or guidance. It's definitely one of the things that they need to add. So just center yourself up like this. Into the building. Get close to that jetway. And parking brakes. Parking brakes are set. Come on up here. Again, we're going to go ahead and do the electric pump. That goes off. And after that, we can do engine number 1. Let's also stop squawking. We're done with our squawkage. We're going to come up here and we can do seat belts. We could turn on the APU bleed now to keep things cool in the airplane. Emergency exit lights are off. I should have done the beacon. I should have done the nose light. And we'll also go ahead and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fuel pumps. External power has just been plugged in, and we can begin to deboard the airplane. And look at that, we're already getting a jetway. So the Fenix will call the jetway, and it will, at this point in your flight, start deboarding the airplane for you. You'll see that the cargo bays are going to open up, and we did it. So once again, skill and daring have overcome fear and anxiety, and everything seems to have worked. So thank you so much for watching. As always, my YouTube videos are not about the definitive right way versus the wrong way. This is merely what works for me. I'm still new here on YouTube. I read all the questions and comments. If you know that I did something wrong, if you're a real-world Airbus pilot and say, no, you do it this way, I can't wait to read what your comments are. So because as a simulator pilot, I want to do it as close to the real-world way to do it as possible. Big thank you to the subscribers over on Twitch, donors on Patreon and Ko-fi. You are the jet fuel in my flight plan, and thank you for making it possible for me to be a content creator. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Twitch. We fly every day. Tuesday through Sunday at 1900. First flight is almost always a group flight on multiplayer, and then we hop on over to VATSIM. So you're welcome to join us over there. And I will see you next week. I'm going to try and find a procedure for one-engine taxi in the Boeing 737. That's my assignment for this week. Your assignment is, as always, stay healthy, stay safe. Thanks for being such great flight sim friends, and I will look forward to seeing you in the simulated friendly skies. Cheers.